I believe that Roethlisberger is not nearing the end of his career in terms of walking away if he's healthy. I think Roethlisberger last season was sending a message to ownership, to management, to the coaching staff that he didn't like the locker room culture. He didn't think everybody was as committed as he was. I think he was bothered by the Antonio Brown Facebook stuff.
Electronically ignorant.
I think he was bothered by Le'Veon Bell's holdout. I think he was bothered by Le'Veon Bell 2 years ago, as well as LeGarrette Blount hot boxing a car and getting nailed on it. I think he was bothered by losses that happen to inferior teams, perhaps because he feels like his coaching staff doesn't get the guys focused. And let's also face it, at times, Ben Roethlisberger can be a bit of a diva, which is weird to say because the guy is a total tough ass and the guy takes a ton of shots. He's as physical as ever, or as any quarterback maybe has ever been. He has 2 Super Bowl rings. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation. He's likely a Hall of Famer, so it's weird to call him a bit of a diva, but sometimes he is. Sometimes he needs to rattle his coffee mug. Sometimes he needs to bang on the door. Sometimes he needs to finger paint on the walls and say, hey, attention on me. And I think that's what he was doing. I don't actually think he has any inclination of walking away this offseason. I don't think he's even thinking about when am I going to walk away. I just think he was going, hey, man, if I walk away, you got nothing. And so I'm going to send out the flare. Something's got to change around here. He likes being the big man on campus. For Le'Veon Bell, look, the Pittsburgh Steelers have moved on from star skill position guys before. This is one of the reasons they have been so good for so long. And let's really date it back to the 90s after the end of the Chuck Noll era and the start of the Bill Cowher era. They began turning over the roster, drafting really well, developing really well. But every time one guy got too big for his britches or they didn't want to pay him that much money because somebody else was going to overpay him, they said, on to the next. And they've done it at wide receiver forever. I mean, forever, turning over guys and finding the next guy. Plaxico Burress, Santonio Holmes. Go down the list of guys they said, great, but once you're done here, we can find the next guy. And so Le'Veon Bell would just be kind of part of that. Now, I think Bell is a little different because he's in his prime right now and because I think Bell has proven that when healthy, he gives the perfect complement to Roethlisberger in the pass game. And he's just unlike really any running back out there with his style, with his patience, with his ability out of the backfield. So I think the Steelers ideally would want to keep everybody together. But if they lose on Sunday to a Jaguars team that's a 7-point underdog, I think the Steelers would take a long, hard look at who is vital, who needs to be here, and who do we need to turn over. I don't think Roethlisberger's going to retire. I don't think they would want to get rid of any of the killer bees. I think they would want to retain Le'Veon Bell. But I do think there would have to be some teeth gnashing and some hand-wringing over how do we get to the next level, because we've had a good team for a number of years, but we haven't been back to the Super Bowl now in 8 years. If they lose this one and they don't get there this year, and the Roethlisberger window is closing. And that's the key here. They've been able to turn over wide receivers, running backs, linebackers, defensive backs. They have not been able to turn over quarterbacks. It's the one thing you can't do. And any Steeler fan knows it was a way different feel when the Steelers had Tommy Maddox or Cordell Stewart or Bubby Brister or Neil O'Donnell versus when they have had Ben Roethlisberger. With Roethlisberger, you've won Super Bowls. The other guys, you've been competitive. You've gone to the playoffs. You may have even lost Super Bowls, but you knew you weren't at the elite level. And the thing is, the Steelers have outlasted the Ravens' excellence. The Ravens had that run. They were going against one another for about 7 to 8 years. Ravens won a Super Bowl. Steelers went to a bunch of Super Bowls. They were competing to be great. Well, they outlasted the Ravens. But now the Patriots are going to come to an end at some point in time. Maybe this is the last run for the Patriots. Maybe it's 2 years from now. But the Steelers are kind of, with Roethlisberger's age, right now parallel with the Pats. And so you can't right now just feel like, well, we'll have this run. We'll have an opening. We'll have a number of years where we can take advantage of it. You might not. Let's say Roethlisberger has 3 great years left. This is one of those 3. I don't think this is the last run, even if they lose. I do think the Patriots will win. I do think the Steelers will win. But I think that Pittsburgh could lose this game if they're not careful. I think they're going to be woken up compared to what happened early in the season because of what happened earlier in the season against the Jags. I don't think that the Jags can score enough points to win this football game. But I think that Roethlisberger could come out of this game battered. I think the offense could come out of this game battered. And that would potentially be a bad thing going against the Patriots in the AFC title game. This should be fun. I wouldn't simply chalk this up as an easy Steelers win.